Have you ever been fasting, really pouring your heart out, and just felt like you were talking to the ceiling? If that sounds familiar, then this is for you. We're going to dive in and uncover what I believe is God's true blueprint for a fast, one that doesn't just leave you hungry, but actually leads to the breakthrough you've been praying for. I mean, it's a really honest question, right? You follow all the steps, you're sincere, you pray, but the chains you're trying to break just don't seem to budge. You are not alone in this. And that feeling of spiritual frustration, that's exactly what we're going to tackle right now.
So the first major mind shift we have to make is understanding this difference. On one side, you have starving. It's a physical act, right? It leads to hunger, and the whole focus is on what you're giving up. But then there's real biblical fasting, and that's a spiritual act. It leads to breakthrough because its focus is completely different. It's not about what you give up, but about who you can set free.
And please, hear this. If your fasts have felt, well, fruitless, it is not because you lack sincerity. It's not about your effort. The problem is usually the model we've all been taught, a model that focuses so much on our personal sacrifice instead of God's true purpose for a fast. So what is God's model? Well, thankfully, we don't have to guess. In Isaiah chapter 58, God himself just lays it all out. He asks this powerful question: is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? And then he defines it: to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke. Right away, you see the focus shift from our own hunger to the freedom of other people. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. A simple misunderstanding of the original language has kind of shaped our whole approach to this. The Bible often talks about afflicting the soul when fasting. In the original Hebrew, that's ana nefesh. And for centuries, we've thought that just means feeling hungry, right? But the word ana actually means to respond, to humble yourself, or to answer a call. It's an action word, not a passive feeling. So the goal of afflicting your soul isn't just about feeling discomfort. It's about humbling our own desires so that we can actively respond to the needs God is showing us. And this brings us to the most crucial point. God is way less concerned with an empty stomach and way more concerned with an obedient heart that actually acts. You know, that one truth, it just changes everything. So what does that action look like? Well, God gives us a very specific list. And just look at these powerful verbs: loose, untie, set free, share, provide, clothe. Every single one of them is an outward-focused command, calling for real compassion and justice in the world around us. Let that just sink in for a second. Not a single item on God's chosen list of fasting activities is about not eating. Every single one is about doing something for somebody else. The whole paradigm just flips on its head. It shifts from self-denial to selfless action. Your fast becomes less about an empty stomach and more about a full heart. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we put this into practice? Let's break down an action plan that takes us from just starving to actually breaking yokes. Here's a simple 3-step blueprint. First, you identify a yoke. Instead of asking, God, what food should I give up? You're going to ask a brand new question. God, what chain of injustice, what yoke can I help you break this week? Second, you plan a specific action. Maybe it's buying groceries for a family you know is struggling. Maybe it's volunteering at a shelter or just taking the time to advocate for someone who doesn't have a voice. Third, you execute that plan with prayer, and you consciously offer that act of service to God as your fast. And what happens when we fast this way? What's the result? Well, God gives an incredible promise right there in Isaiah. He says, then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Do you see that? The breakthrough you've been praying for is directly connected to the yokes you're willing to help break for others. Your healing is tied to the help you give. So this brings us to the final and honestly the most important question. This isn't just about learning something new. It's about doing something different. When you shift your focus from an empty stomach to an active helping hand, you align your heart with God's. So the question is simple. What yoke will your fast break today?